We say what they can't radio.
What's up, world? Welcome to another episode of Young, Gifted, and Black. Tonight, I have some beautiful guests. I'm connected with them. They're my family members. First, I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. We're going to start with you first, sis, and then we're going to move it around.
I'm Nekia, Nikki. I'm Carrick's aunt slash sister, and I am a co-owner of Fully Focused Dance Studio.
Okay.
And I'm Andrea Toussaint. I am an assistant principal at a high school in Brooklyn, and I recently wrote my first book.
Beautiful. I just bought my first copy. Be Your Own Come Up. Ordered it on Wednesday and got here on Friday. That's good service.
I need to say something else. Andrea, I didn't even know we was connected. I'm an assistant principal at elementary school in Manhattan.
This is Black excellence, but we're going to get back to that. Tianna, introduce yourself.
All right, my name is Tianna, and I am the co-owner of Fully Focused Dance Company. We just opened Fully Focused Studios in Bed-Stuy. I grew up with Carrick, and that's my brother.
Yes.
And in the daytime, I'm a technical expert for Social Security.
Absolutely. Mastermind with mathematics here, but that's another story. So today I wanted to have you beautiful queens on the show just because I really admire and respect the things that you are doing within the community. I knew you my whole life, and I knew you for almost over 9 years. And since I've gotten to know y'all, like I've really got to watch the hard work and the dedication y'all put in, whether it be you working on being a teacher or assistant principal or running Fully Focused or your dance group, or whether it be watching you in the classroom or you being an assistant principal or now writing your first book or watching you grow, Tianna, and watching you do the things that you have done with Fully Focused. It's always been in the back of my mind, like if I ever have a show, I want these young ladies on because the community needs to know about these things. So we're going to start off with Tianna. Tell me a little bit about what made you open up, or what made you play your part in opening up a dance studio.
Word.
Well, I used to be a dancer in Fully Focused.
Okay.
Well, first off, I met Nikki when I was 14 years old.
Okay.
So that was about 19 years ago. And I danced for her in Fully Loaded. And in 2005, she started Fully Focused, and I was a dancer in that as well. So over the years, we grew, we lost a lot of members, and it was, at the end of the day, it was still like me and Nick from the start. So it was just like I owed it to her because I feel like I always say dance saved my life, and in a sense, she saved my life. Because growing up,
real.
you know how it was on Gates Avenue,
Absolutely.
how, we used to do and run the streets and stuff. So Nikki actually saved my life. So I felt like, I owed that to her as well to help her make our dreams come true too.
Absolutely, and I admire that because a lot of people they hesitate on bringing their dreams to life, or they don't take that step. They're willing to work hard for their job or their career, but when it comes down to working hard for themselves, they give that hesitation. So to see that y'all was willing to take that leap, I really admire that. And go ahead.
I must say that it wasn't that easy. I mean, we started this in 2013 where we thought about getting our own studio, and it was just a thought.
Absolutely.
And it was always just something holding us back, like what if?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like always you tell people your dreams and they'll be like dream killers. Like you tell people closest to you that you want to do something and they'll say why you can't do it instead of trying to not even help you figure out how to do it, but even encourage you to do it. So that's why it's like, fast forward 6 years later, and like I had friends of mine in my ear saying, just go for it. Like every day, like do something that works towards your dreams, like do what you want to do. And it was just like all I needed was that confidence. So it wasn't always easy.
No, absolutely. I know that you are able to relate to this. You're an educator, you're a teacher, you're an assistant principal, and now you're a book author. And Be Your Own Come Up. I want you to talk a little bit about your book, but real quick, just going off what Tianna was just talking about. Can you relate to that? Like the dream killers and the people, telling you, or the people that's down on you and don't give you that positive motivation?
So I think
Make sure
the
you're talking
interesting
to the
thing
mic.
about what you just said is, number one, when we were working on this book, so it was just an idea last year. I sat at a table at the end of the college tour, and Miss Carter, myself, Miss Archer, all the chaperones that go on this tour, we were sitting there, and what ended up happening was we had this conversation about one of our students, and something negative happened in his life, and we were trying to figure out, like, what's the best way to get these kids back on track. And so in thinking about like the life sacrifices that I've made as an educator to ensure that all my kids, I didn't care who they were, where they came from, that they were in a position to do well for themselves. how do we kind of memorialize that so that we touch more kids? And it came from just this conversation. And so I left there filling up. Then I got home and I'm sharing the news with a relative, and they're like, you ain't got time for that. You back in school right now. You got a dissertation to focus on. This ain't gonna work. Book is done. Sending it out to the editor. One of my homegirls popped up and was like, so and so and so said so and so and so and so and so. And I'm like, I'm not even around y'all anymore. Like, why is it that conversation? And what I'm really trying to do is spread love. And people who know me, they know if I'm on, we all on. I've never been one to get on and then it's just like, oh, I don't mess with this one or this one can't come with me. No, if I'm on and we doing it, we all gonna do it together. So that whole idea of getting on or having people around you in your circle, I mean, I talk about that in the book, Joy Jippers. They right there in the front, and they might be your friend. And they right there in the front, telling you in your face, yeah, that's good stuff that you're doing. And behind your back, they like, yo, these chicks is dumb. Why they wasting their time? Like, this is a mess. And so, you know, when that last incident happened, I put up a post on Instagram. Gloria said to me, she said, but they talked about Jesus Christ. So you ain't never gonna be exempt.
Never.
Right.
And so if you look at things from that perspective, what I found is that that's what it is.
I agree 100%. And this is just so powerful that we take the adversity, we take the hate, we take the naysayers, and we do something with it. You know what I'm saying? I believe that the universe dances along with people that dance back. See, no blessings and no dreams are just going to come to your doorstep. No matter where you from, whether you come from the middle class, poverty, or you rich, you got to go out there and make it happen. And that's what y'all young queens are going out there doing. So going over to you real quick, sis. Tell me a little bit about you. You know, you were a dancer for so many years. I remember, I hate to tell this story, but you took me to Tompkins Park, left me in the swings because you was busy dancing and everything. Got in trouble for Papo, and but those are the type of times that we experience, going back and forth in and out of different buildings and projects, so that you and your group could get the stuff together for the block parties. So to see 20 years later that you have a dance studio and you still in it, what gave you this drive? Was it always instilled in you?
I mean, yeah, I've tried to leave it, and I don't really mean to sound like cliche because we was joking before the show about Hove, but you know how Hove talked about like trying to leave, but it keep coming back. Like I've thought about it. Like when we went down to like 4 kids, I'm like, why are me and Tianna showing up every Tuesday and Thursday? We got kids. Our kids is sitting there. We feed our kids dinner at 8:30 at night. After we have 4 kids, like, why are we still doing this? And I could never leave it alone because I know that what I do in my career is not fulfilling enough because it's not bound in my community and where I grew up. I teach in District 2 on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, where for 10 years that I was at my school, I was the only Black person in a place of power. Besides me being a teacher, everybody else in my school that was of color worked in the cafeteria, the custodians, the janitors, or the paraprofessionals or the teaching assistants. And I was the only Black person, myself and a school counselor, who were people of color on the staff. And when I went to do my SBL to become an assistant principal, we had a real conversation about why Black people don't even apply to teach in my district and what the district implies. So being there, I've went back and forth and grappled with myself about feeling like a sellout. Like I get up every morning, I leave the hood where I live, where I'm raising my daughter, and I go teach these affluent white kids. And, I'm being offered the best professional development that I can get in terms of my career. But I got to do something for where I'm from because I felt like a hypocrite. I felt like I was crossing over. I taught right next to Marcy Projects on Kent and Myrtle for the first 5 years of my career. And when I left, people literally did call me a crossover. And I felt like, what am I going to do for my community? And I feel committed to it because I know that me and Tianna have reached kids over the past 15, 13 years. We've reached kids, whether they're still with us or not. Like a story about an experience of dancing with Fully Focused is still a part of their conversations, and they're like 31 now, 29 now. So I know that even when I felt like this feels like it's failing, we're trying to collect money to, we're trying to get tuition from families, and parents still see us as doing the dance for the block party and don't want to pay. And it feels like we need to give up on this, or we need to turn our backs on these parents. But no, right now we're in a position where we're like, let us, we got to get the money now, and we're looking for grants. We're looking for ways to snatch those same kids who need that experience, who need us in their lives, whose parents just don't respect us enough to pay the money.
Absolutely.
So I just feel like I never could shake it. Even when I said, yo, I got a daughter, I get my daughter home at 8:30 at night on a Thursday. She got school the next morning. I could never shake it because it feels like they need I know that they need what we have to offer. I know they do.
Now, just to switch over real quick, I knew you for a long time now, and I see a lot of the young girls. I remember you gave me some of my first opportunities coming in your classroom, speaking, working on my craft. And a lot of the young ladies that you were mentoring and teaching at the time, they're still in your life to this day. So I never saw a dance group, but I see your mentoring skills and that you kept a connection with these young ladies and these young men that you taught. So I know you're able to relate to what she's saying.
Oh, for sure. And I think it also comes from the fact that I've had mentors in my life, and the mentors that I had from childhood, some of them are still a part of my life. I mean, Frank Mickens was probably the best thing that ever happened to me when I speak about mentorship. And so I know that everything that I do and everything that I'm able to do is attributed to him.
Absolutely.
And the sacrifices that he made for me and a bunch of other kids in this neighborhood. So when I look at the work that I have to do, when I look at Cynthia, she's a part of the work that I've done. It's about being able to put myself in a position where I'm living as best as I can. Ain't nobody perfect.
No.
So nothing I'm ever gonna do is gonna be 100. But I'm living in a way that it shows them that anything is possible. And I'm gonna make the sacrifices that I have to make for those children, because that's what happened to me when I got to Boys and Girls High School.
What I've learned through experience, and thank you for sharing that, is the best way to change your world is to be the change that you want to see. See, sometimes we look for the change, we look for the love, we look for the help instead of just being that. And being that creates more of that, because it's people that's watching us. It's somebody watching this show. It's somebody that's watched you over the last 20 years. Somebody has watched you and myself. And they're like, yo, you know what? I'm going to take this chance. I'm going to take this risk. So the next question is correlated in what we're talking about. Like, how has growing in Brooklyn impacted your life? T, I'm going to let you answer this question and we're going to go around. How has growing in Brooklyn impacted your life?
Bro, Brooklyn is my life. Definitely. I mean, I don't think I've ever wanted to live anywhere else but Brooklyn. And I mean, it's made me tough in the mind because that's what you need. And that's where everything starts, from just your mind and your confidence. And growing up in Brooklyn is like you had to be tough. So, I mean, if you can make it, next question.
I got you.
All right.
You answered that question. I appreciate it.
Did I? Okay.
How about you?
I agree with everything you said. I feel like Brooklyn is me. Like, I don't care where I go, where I'm at. Like, I'm a Brooklyn girl. I'm at Columbia now. You know what I'm saying? Who thought a little brown girl from the streets of Bedford-Stuyvesant would have that seat? Especially with the way that things have started for me when I started high school. So that was like a trip in itself. But it's about, Brooklyn makes you believe that anything is possible.
Absolutely.
You walk these streets, you see the best and the worst, and you have to figure out how you're going to navigate it.
I agree 100%.
No, I'm just listening to what both of you said, and it's so true. I feel like I'm put in a position in my life and my career to bring a Brooklyn swag and a Brooklyn lifestyle and a Brooklyn perspective to everything that I do. So everywhere that I go, I remind people of where I'm from. Like, for instance, yesterday I went into work because we still have a vacancy for a kindergarten teacher and a fifth grade teacher, and I went into work to interview a young lady, and she currently teaches in Crown Heights on Rochester and Park Place. And I said, she's been there for 8 years, and she's a white woman. And I respected the fact that she went there through Teach for America, and she didn't leave after a year, which is what a lot of people of color do when they put them in the low performing schools. And I really respected the grind that she stayed in that school for 8 years. But one question that I made sure was on the panel to interview anybody looking to work in my school this year was around cultural relevance and identity. And when that question was posed to her, all she could tell me that she did for these kids in Crown Heights was made some T-shirts and had them put their hero on it, and she was showing them books to show them that Black people could be heroes. And I just felt like right there she needed my Brooklyn perspective, because I let her know I actually live on Saratoga and Bergen, like a block and a half away from the school you're talking about. I know that community very well, and what I want to tell you about kids in Brooklyn is it's not you're not hitting on cultural relevance, and you're not hitting on any respect for their identities and where they come from, telling me that the biggest thing that you did was had to make some T-shirts that represented, some heroes that they had. So I try to bring a Brooklyn perspective to every position that I'm put in, for the reasons that T and Andrea said around, you got to be strong. You got to know that in Brooklyn you're going to see the best and the worst, and you got to know that we are the flowers busting out of the concrete that's in Brooklyn. And I want to always put that on the map. So that's what it is for me.
I agree 100%. I was raised in the first part of my life in St. Albans, Queens, as you know, and I moved to Brooklyn when I was 11. And my first incident in Brooklyn was I had a fight, right? And at the time when I was in Queens, me and my friends, we was all Power Rangers. So when I came
know
to
You know,
Brooklyn,
when you live in that private house,
yeah,
that's suburb
Power
life.
Rangers, we was playing with sticks. It was real correlated. It was real nice. It didn't go too far. Came to Brooklyn, I got into a situation. So I come upstairs, I tell Nick, I'm like, yo, this dude is bothering me. She's like, you gotta go outside and fight.
That's
So I'm
right.
like, all right, let's go
I
outside and
take them
fight.
outside to fight.
But how I came outside to fight, because I wasn't from Brooklyn yet. You know what I'm saying? I was from Brooklyn, but I ain't get introduced to Brooklyn. So I got ready Power Ranger style. Tommy, like, let's get to it, bro. I tried to kick dude. He grabbed my leg. Next thing you know, I was getting a little Dallas beat out of me. And that was my introduction to Brooklyn, but I had to learn how to fight. I had to learn how to walk, how to stand.
Metaphorically and literally.
Yeah, literally and metaphorically, and it taught me how to take chances. It taught me how to stand tall. Now when I could be in Dominican Republic, I could be in Miami, I could be in Washington. I have this stance about myself, and Brooklyn gave me that. This safety, like I know I'm gonna be good. This swag, like every place is my home. But that's what Brooklyn did for me. So I appreciate that. Next question about Brooklyn, since we're talking about Brooklyn, do you think that gentrification has impacted our community in a negative or positive way? That's a great question. Who would like to answer that first?
Go ahead, Nick.
Ooh,
Gentrify your own hood before them people.
I'm actually mixed, to be
Okay.
honest with you. I'm kind of mixed. I do feel like it's sad to say, but the reality of gentrification from my perspective is that, I have better restaurants to take my daughter to eat, right? So I'm not only surrounded by Popeyes and McDonald's and KFC anymore, but, I can find a decent restaurant or a decent cafe to take my daughter to eat. And that definitely wasn't, my mother couldn't do that with me. So clearly, I know that gentrification has brought some of that. I can kind of, respect some of that. But all of the big controversies around affordable housing and the definition of that, I have a lot of issues with. So I have a mixed feeling. I can't say, I think it comes with its pros and its cons.
Okay, that's a fair answer. Andrea?
I don't know. I mean, growing up in Bed-Stuy, so I grew up I was born and raised in Bushwick. I moved to Bed-Stuy when I was about 8 years old. So from 8 until now, watching the change. And you hear your parents talking about why Bedford-Stuyvesant changed the first go round with West Indians coming in and then people moving out to the island because they didn't want to be in our space. But I remember what Bed-Stuy was and the heartbeat that was in that community, and it's no longer there. And I think that because the ways in which people are being displaced, right, and their homes are being taken, for me, I have issue with that. I think about, when you think about things historically, when you go back to like Weeksville and what Weeksville was to us as a community.
There's so
the
much
first
history around
self-sufficient community in this country for Black people. They had everything in Weeksville. They had schools. They had churches. They had homes. They had a funeral home. Everything that they needed. They never had to go out of their community to get anything.
The remains is still there, and people
But then
don't
you
even
put
know.
down Eastern Parkway. That's what begins to happen. And when you look at what's happening in Brooklyn, this is what's happening now. They put down Eastern Parkway through the middle of somebody's neighborhood and killed the community. So now you got all these buildings popping up that we can't even afford to live in. People charging you $1,200 for a half of a room. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're creating situations where we can't even afford to live in a space that's rightfully ours.
I actually moved, Andrea. I've only been on Bergen and Saratoga for 3 years, and when I drove by Weeksville and where it cuts off and you got to go over the Kingsborough buildings, and I started to research around there because I was like, wait, what exactly used to? I didn't even know what exactly used to happen over here, and I researched everything that you said, and I was blown away by, oh, that's what this decrepit building is right here.
Exactly.
This used to be a resource for the community, and when I started to research that when I moved there, I was blown away. Like, well, what happened? Does anybody care about what happened?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it is really that's really sad.
And so I agree. Like, you have a lot of businesses popping up. I'm gonna support every business that we own. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But I just feel like it's just like when you look at education. Everybody talk about, oh, when desegregation happened, but did we ever look at what we lost? Right?
I was just
When we
listening to
gave
Kamala
up-
Harris talk about that this
when
morning.
we gave up our ownership and our rights, look at what we lose, and it's the same thing that's happening now.
Now, I was saving the way I feel right now, or the way my perspective on this for the podcast. So that's like, I actually was going to do a video on it, and I didn't do it. Tianna, I want you to go in a second. My take on this is that, like you, Nikki, gentrification has impacted me in a positive and a negative way. The negative way is that it's turned our demographic really into consumers, and then it pushed us in predicaments where we can't save up to get a house, where we can't save up to invest in our own dance studio and our own business, because the amount of money it takes now is equivalent to one of my friends that live in Long Island that has his own house. So in order for you to get a nice 2-bedroom apartment in Bedford-Stuyvesant, you have to pay $3,000. Why I feel negative about that is not about the gentrification that took place. It's about, as me and you were talking about the other day when we met, I think that you remember that line when Jay-Z was like, "Yo, I could have bought that house in Dumbo for $2 million. Now it's worth $25 million." I feel like
Guess how I'm
like
feeling.
Dumbo. Like, I feel like that for everybody that live in Brooklyn. I feel that way for the people that have sold their house for illusionary money. I feel that way for people that have allowed other demographics of people to convince them to move out their community for money, that after they get taxed, after you get hit, after the government take they have, you're not going to have nowhere near as what you had if you would have kept that property and renovated and rented it out. So for me, personally, I think that people like yourself, be your own come up. People like y'all that's opening up dance studios within your community. Anybody that's watching, as soon as my credit reaches the number I wanted to get to, and I'm gonna save the money that I need to save, I'm gonna invest in getting some property and opening some things up within the community, because now it's on us. See, our ancestors and the people that came before us, they got us here. Because at once, this stuff that we're doing wasn't easy. You couldn't just go up and speak your truth, open up a dance studio, forget Weeksville, but before Weeksville, we had Jim Crow. You know what I'm saying? Before Jim Crow, we had slavery, where these type of things would get you killed. So now, since our ancestors led a way for us to be here, everybody here has a master's degree. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody here is black excellence. We're doing something to show young people within our community, and no matter where you come from, you can make it. But we got to do a little more. Because if we don't, the culture will continue to get snatched out of our community. We will continue to walk around Brooklyn and be like,
Our
"Yo, what's
culture's been
happening?"
snatched.
Like, it's been snacked to a certain extent, but as long as we still exist, when I take walks now because I do photography, and you don't understand the joy that I get when I walk past the dance studio, and I'm like, "Oh, this is my sister. This is Tianna." Like, "Oh, this is good." We have to put stuff here.
Right.
See, the problem is that the segregation messed us up. Because everybody was trying to fit in. It was like, all right, after the bill was passed, we all wanted to fit in where white people was fitting in that. So we gave up our stuff. And now, fast forward, we don't have anything. So now we gotta pay the $3,000 versus, imagine if thousands of people had brownstones and we could control the young people that's coming out of college. We don't have to charge them $3,000 for rent.
The other night, me, Adele, and Cherie was sitting down talking about this. And Adele's daughter is going off to college. She's going to either Spelman or North Carolina A&T. Shout outs to Skylar. And Adele was saying, you know, the way we were living back in the day, anybody that's 35 and over now, the way our parents raised us was just like, you know, we was just raised with our values. And I don't remember my parents talking to me much about getting that property and snatching that property. And now that we feel more educated on it, it feels like like such a far reach to tell our kids that. You know what I'm saying? Like, get that, snatch that, because they're taking everything away from us in our communities. And that, I guess that's what makes me more angry than anything.
What he said, my family ain't have shift, so the shift started with me, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
You're right.
imperative that
You're right.
we do tell our kids to make those moves, because if we don't, they're gonna not be able
Oh no,
to.
definitely. It just feels so far fetched.
It's not really far fetched. Is that, say for example, right now, us four people right now could say, you know, we're gonna save up a certain amount of money and we're gonna buy a brownstone. We could actually do that. And
Right.
then another four people could be watching the
Right.
show and be like, oh my God, those four people that just did that podcast, the lady that got the Be Your Own Come Up book and the Fully Focused and the Koolforlife, they got their own brownstone. Oh, you know what? I'm going to get, me and my friends going to buy one. See, we got to make the move. Collectively. See, while we're talking about it, the Jews, the other demographics, the people from London, all over the world, they're making those moves. But we
No,
have
you know,
to,
it's so
we
funny.
have to be
that
the
way.
change.
We have to come together
because
instead of saying,
let's go back for a minute. Any demographic that's successful right now, they learned the success from us. The Jews, when they got introduced into the United States of America in the 30s, they threw them into black communities and to the college area. So they watched us. They watched how we move. You see, we lost our way. You see, it's been a blueprint for us to lose our way. Thank God the ancestors and people, the Most High has found a way for people like yourselves to exist, for y'all to lay the blueprint. But it's our job now to teach our young people that they got to make the move. They can't just sit back and be like, oh, I'm not buying property in Brooklyn. Now you got to buy a piece of property. Because that's the only way the culture is going to stay in the community. And that's the next question. How do we keep the culture? How we keep the culture in the community is by putting things in the community that our young people can latch on to. That can inspire them. Like, I'm a young person in the community. Even though I'm 34 years old, I'm growing up. My friend just dropped a book. We talked about the book. I watched her ideas. I was like, yo, I remember when this was a thought. Next thing you know, I could go on Amazon. Yo, send me the link. Now I done bought the book. Now I got her on the show. It's inspired me to write my own book. But look what's happening though, because she wrote the book. Now, if she would just be like, yeah, I'm about to write this book, and then we would have been talking and there's no book, it's really nothing to talk about. If the dance studio would have never appeared, it's really nothing to talk about. It's like, oh, we all got a bunch of thoughts. But we actually took those thoughts and we brought it into reality. That's the spark now for the young people that's watching. So, next question.
I remember when you said you was going to start a clothing line, and I was like, well, that's an idea that's been out there. You know, not that I doubted you, but I know that you, and you brought it to existence. And I think that you're right. That's what it is. That's what it's about. And we want every kid that crosses our threshold and comes inside that studio to know where we came from and that they can do what we're doing too. And I try to go to lots of hip hop forums for things, and just when I see how many white people are trying to learn the culture of hip hop, how many Asians are trying to dance and take it away from us, it just makes me feel like that's why our studio needs to exist. Because we're not only teaching kids dance steps, like we know hip hop. Tianna went to the Hip Hop Dance Conservatory on a scholarship that she won and learned how to count beats, count bars, how to dance on those. We got Brandon, somebody that partners with us, who could teach kids how to write a bar, how to put your meaning into a bar. And we want to do so much more. I just went to a hip hop and graffiti exhibit the night before last in Williamsburg. And I could tell you that I was one of the only black people out of 600 people that they let in. And I hear these white people and these Asian people talking about, they're like recording and writing down like who Cornbread was that did graffiti. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That's what I know. I was raised doing that. Like that's why I feel established. That's why I feel like I could have a dance studio in Bed-Stuy where they're sitting here recording in their phones and they're researching, trying to make the connections that we was raised having. It's just like, yeah, it's our time. Like, I haven't even had a chance to chop it up with T about this yet. It's our time. Like, we got to do this now because we own it, and everybody's trying to take it from us.
T, you've been a little quiet for a minute, so I apologize.
I've been soaking it all in.
We've been
It's
getting
the
into
thoughts,
it.
you know?
Like, what's your take?
that's fine.
What's your take on that? You didn't get to answer the gentrification problem, so give me something real quick from that.
Well, I definitely agree, and I was born in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. I've lived in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn for a majority of my life, except for 3 years when I moved to East New York, and it was just like, it was so different from home. But then when I moved back home, home was different. And it was just like, it changed so quickly. Like I moved and I went to East New York. I got robbed at East New York. But anyway, I came back home and home wasn't the same. Like I didn't see the same faces, you know. Like I came back home and my mother's rent doubled. And it was just like 3:00 in the morning and you see a bunch of white people walking down the streets with their dogs. And it was like, that couldn't happen just when I was there a couple of years ago. So I mean, it changed, and it's definitely different. And
in the next for the rest of the show, I want y'all to talk a little bit about y'all businesses, and I want you to talk a little more about this book and about the studio. But before we get there, I just want to say that I read this book a while back called The Alchemist, and it was one of the best books I read. And The Alchemist is about this young dude just searching for like an alchemist to teach him how to create gold and like where the treasure. He wanted to find this treasure, right? For his family, for himself. Come to find out at the end of the book, like he was the treasure. He was the thing he was looking for the whole time. Yeah. You see, gentrification and Bedford-Stuyvesant and Brooklyn within itself, it reminds me of that book, that we were sitting on gold, and that we, even though our parents and our grandparents weren't able to, nudge us and tell us to go buy that property or to make those business moves, we were sitting on a community that we should have took care of, that we should have did more within our community. Because now the same place that people were scared to walk, the same place that people was like, just throw your garbage on the floor, now they could charge you $3,000 or you got to spend $70 for a 2-person meal. And this is the same community we've been living in. So I think for anybody that feels a way, you shouldn't be mad now that you got to spend that extra dollar to get that piece of property because we didn't do what we were supposed to do. But now when we get that piece of property, we teach our kids a little better. So moving forward, right? I want you to talk a little bit about Be Your Own Come Up. Like, what's your goal with this book?
So the goal with the book is to expand my reach as an educator. And I found that what I was able to do when I was in the classroom, like Mick used to tell me, kids, you only reaching 125 kids a year. You got to do more. So I became an AP. Becoming an AP allowed me to reach even more children, get to know more kids. And what happened is through those conversations with kids, and initially, like you said, it was always the girls. For some strange reason, the girls always gravitate. They like, oh, Miss T, we want to be with Miss T, fine. But then you have these conversations with them, and you're seeing like there's some real broken places. And when people are broken, they do some things, right? And so we're hearing about it. We got to be real. You're hearing about who's scamming, who's doing this, who's doing that. But short money don't last long. So how do we change this narrative for our kids, for them to understand that if you want to be something, if you want to get something, I'm not saying everybody got to go off to college and become a doctor. But what I'm saying is you got to find something you're passionate about and let your passion become your brand, right? So one of these chapters in here, it's crazy that we're on this floor. One of these chapters in here is about a young lady right down the hall, Ming. Ming did my hair, I want to say that was in 2017 for my birthday. Ming did my hair. I was nervous. I ain't never had a weave in my life. I was transitioning to this whole natural thing, and I'm like, oh God, get here. Ming is doing my hair. She's talking me through the process, and I'm like, it's something about this little girl. Because at that time, she was, 21, 22? It was something about her. And I watched her, and I watched how she wasn't afraid to ask questions when she didn't know something. She was making different moves. I'm buying a house, I'm buying a car, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that. I want to get my own business, I want to have my own brand of hair. And to watch that in a year and a half, most of what she talked about, she made happen legitimately, right? You know what I'm saying? And so when you catch things like that and you catch magic like that happening, that's what you want to recreate for kids. I feel like we spend so much time confusing our kids that they just don't even know if they're a kid or an adult. We throw fingernails on them, long hair, they got bundles in their head, and they don't know which way to go. They walk out in the street, they getting attention from grown men, but they come home and their mom telling them, no, you're a kid, right? So how do we balance this equation for our children? And so really, the book started off as something for girls, teaching them that, like, see beyond the now, know that there's a promise on your life, and if you're just patient and don't move in haste, like, it's all gonna work out.
That's a fact.
But it turned into that conversation, then went into like if our girls are doing better, then our boys got to step up too, right? So we gonna balance this equation out. So really, the goal for this book is to reach as many young people as possible. But what I'm finding is that adults have already purchased the book, and I'm hearing more from them like, "Yo, this has been the best thing that I ever read to kind of refocus and reset my life and figure out the direction that I want to go in." Because some of us, we just wake up in the morning and we go to work, we do a job, but we're not even passionate about what we're doing. So we existing, but we're not living. And so how do we begin to change that? And that was really the goal with this book.
One of my favorite Jay-Z's lines is that I will never be a product of my environment. My environment will be a product of me. And I think that, like, I have a shirt on, put yourself on.
That's right.
You have a book, be your own come up. And I think that a lot of our young people, they get the false idea that, success is like instant gratification. No, like, there is no instant gratification with success. That if you want something, that is best that you put your energy on creating versus talking about your circumstances, versus talking about your broken family structure, versus talking about your community. We all came up from something that could have
That's
been
right.
better, but our opportunity now is to make it better.
And that's what Miss Carter said to me. She used to say to me, as bad as it is as bad as it's not. And when you borrow from those little conversations, think about how many kids, they don't have an adult in their life. They don't have somebody that's having that positive. As a grown woman, I'm 38 years old. I still sit at the foot of my elders and I'm like, okay, it's a lot more learning to do. It's a lot more growing to do. And I have a lot more work to do. And this is the first step.
That's beautiful, and I'm glad that you took your step. I'm really glad that you took your step to do that. Whether it be Nekia or Tianna, I want y'all to tell me a little more about this dance studio, like the goals of what you wanted to, how you wanted to impact your community, and just the inspiration or the dedication it took to actually see it go to see it go through. Because I saw the before and after pictures. I saw how it looked before y'all started and how it looks now. So tell me a little bit about that process and what you want the community to know about Fully Focused Dance Studio.
I'm going to let Tianna answer that, but before that, I want to go back to the very beginning of our conversation together. Tianna said this was a thought in 2013, and I want to actually remind Tianna, this was a conversation that we had with Papo a long time ago. And
if anybody don't know who Papa is, that's our father, my grandfather / father. He raised us.
Yes.
He has passed
God
away,
bless
but
his
God
soul.
rest his soul.
And I just want to say that he actually looked at a spot on Marcus Garvey between Quincy and Lexington for us way before we would have knew how to run a dance studio. And he actually said to me when he found out Tianna was going to school for finance, he said, "Moosey, Tianna's going to make more money than you. In the end, she's going to be the brain. Y'all need to get together and do it." And I'll never forget that. And that was when Tianna was just starting Baruch College. And Papo saw this vision in Tianna. And what she didn't say in the beginning is, for my last 3 months of work as an assistant principal from March to June, she got on the grind and she found the right space. She looked at several spaces. She negotiated with brokers. She negotiated everything, and she got us that space. I can't take no credit except to say that when you working with the right person, like you were saying, Andrea, about when you on, everybody is on, she handled that. And all I had to do was step into it when I got out of school on June 28th. I had to step in something that she really, really, really established. So she really has to answer that question right now. I just want to put that out there. She did that.
I'm very modest. I would never say
Yes.
She did that.
But what I want to say is I want the studio to do for kids in the community what dance did for me. So I want them to be able to have somewhere to go, have something to do, and not just be on the streets or even just in the house. A lot of children don't get to be kids. I know you mentioned that earlier. A lot of kids don't get to be kids. Like a lot of our students that we have, they're home babysitting their younger siblings and stuff instead of going to dance programs, instead of going to basketball, instead of doing things that kids should be doing. And it's just like I want it to create that community, and I want them that safe haven that they don't have at home or in the streets. Like I want it to do for me. I want it to do for them what it did for me. So
Absolutely. So how hard was it to bring this dream to life though? Like was it 1, 2, 3 or like what did it take?
It kind of it wasn't easy, I would say that, but the biggest thing was my mind, like my confidence. I didn't have the confidence that I had years ago. Like, and she mentioned Papa talking about that. I remember Papa telling me when I was going to Baruch, Papa was like, $50,000 is not a lot of money. You got to make more money. He's like, don't let no job tell you $50,000 is not a lot of money.
Right.
You know, once the taxes hit, you're not. It's not a lot of money. You know how Papa will talk, right? So, I mean, that always stuck with me in a lot of conversations that we had as well. But it wasn't easy. But the hardest thing was my mind and not letting other people. Like, honestly, I told my father this. I brought him a whole business plan. I wrote a business plan in 2013 and 2014, brought it to him, told him how it would work. He told me a million ways why it wouldn't work. So, I mean, even though he's playing devil's advocate at that time, my confidence wasn't enough to tell me that I could do it because he told me I couldn't, you know? So, like, years later, it was just like, it hit me like, you just got to do it. Just got to go. And don't look at what other people success is or what you perceive other people's success is, because it's not going to be the same for you. Like, you have to determine what your own success is. I don't care what somebody else is doing on Instagram. That's right. Or I don't care what somebody else is acting like they're doing, or how much money they have, or how much friends they have, or how popular they are, or what determines their success. My success doesn't determine that.
But to make a distinction real quick for my viewers, I want people to understand that it's imperative that you choose the people that's around you, because that could lead to your success or your failure. Mm-hmm. I'm reading this book it's by Napoleon Hill, but it's called The Black Choice, right? I think the guy's name that's connected with is Dennis Kimbrough. And in the book, the first chapter is talking about how powerful the mind is, and that human beings only use 5% of their mind, right? And it said it doesn't matter if you're black, white, it doesn't matter if you come from New York or India, that if you tap into the powers of your mind and your spirit, that you can manifest anything. And that's what I get from you young ladies and even myself, that we have found a way to tap into our minds and our spirits, and we have found a way to manifest and to grow and to build. And a lot of our young people, you know, coming from where we come from, they tend to hang out with people that are not benefiting them. They tend to hang out with people that people can only see as far as their perception could take them. So if you have dreams and aspirations and you're hanging around somebody that never left the block, and you like, yo, I'm about to be a multi-million-dollar bookseller, they might tell you like, yo, son, you bugging out. But if you have that same conversation, I have my master's because I watched my sisters get her master's. I watch friends like Andrea talk about how they can't talk to me right now because they working on their dissertation or they working on a paper, and then they really connected and they really into that. So I had to respect that, and I had to watch her progress. But I see that sometimes you have to go in isolation to grow. You know what I'm saying? Like, caterpillars become butterflies in isolation. Right. It's not around everybody. They have to go somewhere, under the ground, secluded, and then they become that butterfly. And a lot of us know that journey, that we had to seclude ourselves from friends, from family members, and we had to make it happen.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I want to connect to something that Andrea said about the purpose of her book and communicating this message to young people about being your own come up. We just recently, as recent as Monday and Tuesday of this week, it feels like it was forever ago, we just took a group of kids to Kalahari Resort to compete in a national level competition for dance.
Okay, still in competitions, baby.
And the kids, they ranked high gold in the competition. Now, you can rank nothing, you can rank silver, you can rank gold, high gold, or platinum. And it really breaks down to your average of scores from 5 judges. And our kids scored high gold. And we had a student who competed on stage telling some other dancers, this is horrible, because she had a friend in the competition who she told, yeah, my group is coming, we're getting platinum. And just to think about the intent of what you want to communicate, Andrea, to young women and mothers, is that it doesn't sound different from the intent we have for our dancers. And what I had to say to her is, what you did on the stage, because then actually after getting the high gold, we were only one of 5 dance studios that received a special award for sportsmanship. And when I went on the stage to receive that award, in my excitement, I looked at our kids and they were all frowning because they got that high gold and not that platinum. And immediately off the stage, the conversation was, you have to know who you are and own who you are, irregardless to what the judges judge you. And then when we got the scores, they missed platinum by 2.8 tenths of points. Wow. And to know that they came that close when every other factor that we're trying to teach kids to consider, you missed 2 practices. We got this dance together in 4 weeks. We did this, we did this. We're trying to like not only teach kids hip hop at Fully Focused Studios, but they have to own who they are before we take them out into a competition and let a competition tell them who they are. Like I couldn't believe that they sat on that stage and were so upset about being 2.8 tenths of points away from that platinum that they thought they should walk away with. And they were in a funk for the rest of the time. That Tianna took off 2 days of work. I took my daughter out of 2 days of her new middle school's like camp to go take these kids here. So I have to sit back and say, am I hurt? Yeah, I feel a little hurt, but it just redefines our purpose for opening up this studio and what we want to cultivate in kids. It's beyond the dance. It's beyond you got a 279.50 from 5 judges and you didn't get the 270, the 280 that would have got you platinum. It's beyond that. It's about you owning who you are, no matter what platform you walk into to perform, to put your craft out there. You got to own who you are before you let somebody else judge you and put you in that funk. And that's just how I just connected to your book when you described it.
Yeah, I love how we all connect, and this is like so beautiful. And I'm thinking about something in my mind, right? Like I just lost my train of thought, but I had the thought. But actually, I didn't. My last question for the night is like, what type of legacy are we trying to leave for our family, right? And before I get to that question, it's just making me think about all the hard work and all the dedication that it took to get here. So
I got to answer that one first, may I?
yeah.
Legacy. This is a real important question to me because I have a daughter who's 11 years old, and my daughter is defined as having special needs. My daughter has a speech impairment, and my daughter has speech apraxia, which also affects neurological functions. And my whole purpose, my whole legacy is to show her that no matter what, you never, ever give up, no matter what. Where my daughter has what's defined as intellectual disabilities or special needs or a student with disabilities by the Department of Education, whatever you want to call it, I feel like I had a deficit in losing my mother at 14 years old, living on Gates Avenue between Marcus Garvey and Lewis, where I could have been sucked in, and I had examples, my father namely first, to show me that you never stop striving. I feel like she sees every single thing that I do. She sees everything that I do, from taking her to school and kids in her class saying, your mother's the assistant principal aside, your mother the assistant principal of our school, to knowing that me and Tianna take the time from our personal lives to run Fully Focused. I need her to see all of that stuff to know that no matter who you are, no matter how you're different, no matter how you're unique, you never give up. And that's legacy for me. And I try to set that example and drag her under my wing to see every single thing, to see what resilience, what the real definition of resilience is, what the real definition of perseverance is. And that's legacy for me. I just want to get my piece out there. Shout out to my baby girl, Sai Thomas.
Absolutely. It made me thinking about, it started to make me think about like the 50s, right? That movie that came out with Taraji P. Henson. What was it? What was that movie when they figured out how to get into outer space?
Hidden Figures.
Hidden Figures, right?
Oh,
People of color was on an all-time high in the 50s, right?
yeah.
We were pushing the limits. Like we were seeing freedom. We were seeing, like, we was like, forget what they about to give us. We going out there and get it. And if you recall, after Jim Crow, the drug epidemic hit. You know what I'm saying? We had the war on drugs. All these drugs and guns got poured into our community. And I
Under
think,
the Reagan administration.
yeah, under the Reagan administration. And I think that the powers that be understand what people of color do when they're connecting their family, and when they have that idea that mentally, if they put their mind to something, they could do anything. So a lot of the things that have happened in the last 30 or 40 years have happened to kind of just distract us, because it started with us, it's going to end with us. So it's really only so much you could do with people like us. You could distract us to a certain extent. You could try to pour guns, bad politicians, poverty-stricken communities, but still we what Maya Angelou say, still we rise. Through that concrete, you have be your own come up books, you have dance studios, you have master's degrees, you have service, dedication, educators, social workers, math, uh, geniuses. Like you have people that
Tianna didn't even
are
talk about how she
pushing.
went to Spain.
You have people that are pushing
that
the
work.
limits, and we come from this environment. People that 20 years from now, somebody might be reading in a textbook about the things that we had to overcome. So the fact that we're able to have gotten here should give the spark to other people, not just young people, but anybody, because success doesn't have a date. You could be 38, you could be 34, you could be 15. Like what's my name? Coco Golf. My
Yeah.
homegirl was in the Sweet 16 at the Wimbledon. Like you never know where your spirit and your talents could take you.
Right.
So I'm getting into it now. I'm starting to get passionate.
You're getting
You know?
very passionate, Kay.
Get into it.
Go
But
off.
That's
talk
what-
to me real quick.
Cool K.
What type of legacy do you want to leave?
So for me right now, because I don't have any children, my legacy is twofold. Somebody told me years ago, what's written is what lasts, right? So no matter what happens to me, this is always gonna come before me. This is my gift to a generation, right? And then the other part of that is I have the unique opportunity to look at hundreds of kids that I've served and to hear about the great things that they've done. And even when I get calls and it's not so great, to hear about the passion behind what's happening next. And so I can look at my nieces and my nephews and I can definitely put some things in them as well so that they grow and they develop. And so my legacy is split in those two spaces.
Family.
Just want to throw in that both these young women work at two of the best schools within the United States of America. You have Medgar Evers Preparatory, then you
That's
have
right.
Beekman Hill, and you could do your own research. This is not my opinion. Like I know Dr. Wilshire, like I knew her for over 10 years, and this is ironic that we all ended up on this episode because
No, it's not ironic.
The
Nah.
impact that y'all
Everything is-
that
This
y'all
was-
laying.
It was written.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this is it's mind-boggling to me just to think about what Andrea's doing, what my sister's doing, what Tianna is doing, what I'm doing. It's amazing how we're going out there and we're paying it forward. And it doesn't matter if we're around the elite whites and we're around the elite blacks. It doesn't matter where we from. We always bring it back, like Nipsey Hussle said. Like the marathon must continue. We always bring it back. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just wanted to give that in.
No. I mean, and that's really where it's at. Earlier in the conversation, it was something that you said, and I was like, we stop certain things by teaching our children that at one point they were teaching us, you got to go. Like when you get out, go. Don't come
Yeah.
back here.
Yeah.
Right? But we really got to
Yeah.
tell our kids, you got to come back
You gotta
here
come
and fix
back.
this for the next generation.
It's ironic that they told us not to come back here, and now you come to Brooklyn. You got people from Spain, all over the
Exactly.
world. Like, yo, I'm going to move to Brooklyn. It don't matter if I got to spend $4,000.
And live with
so
4 people.
20, 30 years ago, they was telling us to get out. But now, 30 years forward, this is the best thing smoking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, this is, you
Yeah.
could rival Brooklyn now with Manhattan. Like,
Yeah.
it's people from moving out of Manhattan to come to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Like, so it's funny that sometimes, like Jay said, going back, my family ain't have shit, so the shift started with me. Sometimes our family or our people that raised us was taught the wrong information, and sometimes the new illiterate of the 21st century are no longer people that can't read or write. It's people that can't learn or unlearn. So it's okay if you unlearn some messed up information, but you got to unlearn that, and you got to teach your kids and your people in your community. It's not just about having kids, because a village raised us.
Right.
Like my aunt, my sister, my grandfather, my great grandmother. She didn't just raise me. The neighbors raised me.
That's right.
The teachers raised me. The camp advisors raised me. The people within my community that's older than me, like yourself, inspired me to be better. It was a collective effort. So I just want that to be said. And Tianna, I want you to answer that question
Yes,
about your
okay.
legacy.
So, and we talk about children. I do have a son. He's 7 years old.
My man
And Caden, yes, who thinks he's Spider-Man. But anyway, he already I instilled in him. I want to change that narrative of what do you want to be when you grow up? No, it's who do you want to be now? Who do you want to be? Not what do you want to be. That's the thing of the past. And we're writing a book together on that. Who do you want to be now? And he always comes to me with these ideas. He has this great business mind, and he always talks about what he wants to do, these businesses that he wants to have. Last year he had a lemonade stand, and he wants to do all these things to give back, and it's just like, I want to just leave that business sits and tell him, exactly, put yourself on, be your own come up. And that's what I want to instill in him and instill in the community, that anything you want to do, you can do it. Like, I once had somebody recently tell me, oh, you doing too much. Like,
Girl.
you want to do a studio, you want to buy a property, you want to write a book, like you want to sell candles, what you're doing too much, and you still want to work a full-time job, you're doing too much. And I just had to put that person on
But
not
I was
disturb.
listening to a Drake song. He said somebody told me I fell off. Ooh, I needed that.
I needed that.
Sometimes like you want that spark, right? Like
No, but you know what? I was actually really hesitant to tell my principal that we opened a dance studio in Brooklyn, because I feel like she's the type that will question my work ethic at work because I'm doing that. And then you know what I said? Listen, first of all, I don't care how I'm judged, but I'm going to show everybody I could do it all.
That's
I
right.
can manage both. And I told her, I said, you know what, I'm doing this. And when I saw her yesterday, she said, oh, how's the studio coming along? And I don't know what the intent was behind the question, but I have to show her. No, I can handle being your assistant and run this school, and I can run my dance studio back in Brooklyn. Like, I have to show her that, because I was actually scared to tell her at first.
all right. This probably for me this has been my best episode because it's the connections and the and what y'all doing within the community. Quick story real quick, right? I'm gonna tell you that it's best that you surround yourself around people that wish you well, because I remember the day that my friend did this photo shoot, right? She didn't call me up like, yo, Kerry, could I get a shirt? Like, I'm about to do this shoot. She was like, I want to buy a hoodie real quick. I'm like, all right, where you at? What time you want to meet? She came, picked up the hoodie, gave me the money, and I'm like, I'm about to put this in do the shoot real quick. Next thing you know, a couple months later, she sent me the book cover, like, yo, check the book cover out, though. I'm like, oh, crying yourself, sis. I'm like, oh, how you throw that in the book like that? And she like, yo, for me, it's about everybody winning. And that's the type of people that you want to be around. People that like, when they doing their thing, they keep you in mind, like, because that's hard. And that's a lot. That's what our people of color suffer from. When we doing our thing, we got to remember that we got to keep our hand out. We got to remember that we got to keep that door cracked, because if we don't keep it cracked, they can't get in. We already know the system. They not letting us in. So if we imagine to get in, to get the dance studio, to get the clothing line, to get the podcast, then we got to leave it cracked. Because if we don't leave it cracked, then we're going to be complaining about lack of culture and lack of people of color owning stuff in the community. So we got to pay it forward. That's what I want my company to stand for. And that's what y'all stand for. That pay it forward state of mind. So to end this show real quick, where can people get this book from? I went to Amazon and it came in 2 days. Where else can they get it from?
So it's
I got
only-
proud. Mine's going to come in one day.
Right.
It's only on Amazon right now.
Okay.
That's the only place for you to get it. I have a book signing coming up August 11th at the 4040 Club. So if you
Okay.
guys
You will
are
be there?
available-
Okay.
I will be
I
there. That's
will
the
be
day
there.
before I leave for Amsterdam.
Okay.
Perfect
Let's
time.
get to it. And
That's amazing.
That's amazing. I look forward to it. Like I said, I got mine ready, so y'all should get y'all's. Be your own come up. It's an amazing book. I'm putting my time and my dedication into reading this book. I might buy me another copy, go out there and get that.
And because of the community that I said I work in, not only am I going to buy it, but I'm going to push your book in my school community, because I
Thank
feel
you
like
so
white
much.
women need to read. They need to open up their perspective, and like this notion of woke, like I that's subjective, but if I can put that in the hands of women that are educators, that are white, that I know can learn from you, that will be my goal. That's what I want to do with that book.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that. That's what it's all about, us working together. Tell the people a little bit about how their kids or young teenagers could get involved with a fully focused dance studio.
Well, you can follow us. We just created a new Instagram, Fully Focused Studios. Fully Focused Studios. There's no content yet, but you can follow that, and also follow Fully Focused Dance Company. That talks a lot about, you get information about our intensive program that we have, kids 8 through 21 right now. And also we are going to be having a lot of classes coming up for adults as well. We have a sip and dance next Saturday at 6 p.m. for over 21, yes. And also our grand opening is July 27th, so you'll get a lot more information as well.
Thank you so much.
And because my executive assistant, who was my former student, and baby just reminded me, be your own come up. That's at Instagram, correct? And the Gmail is the same thing. Be your own come up at Gmail.
Yo, this show has been amazing to me. The last thought that comes to mind, it says our greatest fear is not that we're inferior. Our greatest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is not our light, but our darkness that most frighten us. You're serving I always forget the end of that. Wait, our greatest fear, whatever. Yeah, y'all get it.
We know what you
what
got.
We know what you
Y'all
got,
know what I
okay?
mean, right?
Yes.
Dre told me about doing quotes and not remembering all of it, but
Yeah,
the wine caught up to me. But the ending perspective to that is that when we live out our dreams and we show the world that we could bring our dreams to life, we unconsciously inspire other people to do the same, right? That's the basis of that quote, right? Is that when you're living out your true light, that your light inspires other people to live out their dreams. And that's what I got from these young ladies tonight. Everybody here collectively is living out their dreams in one shape or form. And I appreciate on a micro, meso, and a macro level. In the social work form, that means individually, small groups, and large groups. And I see that that's what y'all doing, and I appreciate that. That's what the community needs, and I wish y'all well. Continue going out there and keeping the culture within our community, inspiring our young people, and let's continue making our family and our parents and our grandparents proud. Like Jay said, our family ain't had shit, so the shift started with me.
Hello.
So for that new wealth, for those new pieces of property, for those new multi-million-dollar or multi-billion-dollar businesses, we will create the foundation for that. This will be a bestseller. The dance studio is going to be world-renowned. Koolforlife is going to take off. We have to set the blueprint so that our young people coming up, they have something to follow. My name is Carrick Wise. I appreciate y'all for tuning in with me. Y'all stay blessed, and we'll talk soon.